Hello, everybody. So lovely for you to join me at this very weird angle as I'm trying to fit my camera and something else beside it, which at the moment would be this. It's really weird to even be pointing at a direction because I'm actually pointing in the opposite direction where the picture is supposed to be. Don't blame me, blame my setup, which I set up, so that's totally on me. Anyway, I kinda wrote a book in about 2 weeks because a subject got stuck on my brain, like subjects sometimes do, and it was important that it was running wild out there. And a friend of mine designed me a book cover, which is something that you're staring at right now, because I find that to be absolutely incredibly amazing, and I honestly really love it, and it's my favorite thing ever, hence why you're currently staring at it. I thought it might be fun to read a chapter from my book to you. As you know, a low-key book promo that's probably not so low-key considering that this has been a 1-minute intro already. So yeah, remember that time when I made a video when I stated that maybe you should not make a soul pact? I wrote a whole book about it, and I spent on this more time investigating than I ever expected to spend time investigating on it, including what is the devil? What is different religions' viewpoints of afterlife? Medical studies on religious people. It was an insanely fun thing to write, and honestly, I hope that some of you take the time to read it. It's gonna be in the description down below. And there's gonna be a free PDF link, and hey, if you wanna buy me a coffee, you can also purchase it off Amazon, but the PDF will just have the whole thing as it is. I just want some eyes on it, honestly, because I got so into writing it, and it became so fun to write that I'm like, this is such a niche subject. I don't know who the hell's gonna purchase this. I don't know how am I even gonna make back the money that I spent on the cover, but it was so much fun. And one of the chapters right at the end is I have testimonies, which is I went out into as many directions as I can, into the wild, so to say, to ask people, hey, have any of you sold your souls? Which is a really bizarre thing to ask of people to begin with. And I did get some responses, and that was a lovely thing to get responses on, honestly, for I almost didn't expect to get any responses. It's a very niche practice, it's a very niche thing, not many people actually do it, so every single response was very interesting for me to get, and I put as many of them into my book as I can. I didn't put them all, some of them were completely off topic, but I put as many of them as I can, and that's what this video is all about. I am just gonna read them to you and maybe comment on it. The first response that I got was unfortunately not from the person themselves, and this is gonna be a common thing, where if something bad happens, it's not the person themselves that tells you that something bad has happened, it's somebody's buddy or somebody's friend. I can tell you the negative consequences that happened to a distant friend named Jacob that took the deal I turned down. It's been a little over a year since it happened. The last time I spoke to Jacob, he told me that after he accepted the deal from the demon, he underwent a kind of transformation that took approximately 2 weeks, and according to him was painful. He told me he was still him, but not the same him as he was before. He told me that if he ever texts me again or calls, to not answer him, as he didn't want to corrupt an innocent, his words not mine. That was the last I've heard from him, though. About 3-4 months later, I get a message from another guy, friend that was also friends with the guy friend who took the deal. This guy friend, Jack, had warned him not to take the deal, but obviously it was too tempting for him, so he did it anyway. Jack called to tell me that Jacob was dead. I was in complete shock and thought he was messing with me at first, but he was dead serious. He said Jacob had been living high life, and luring in all kinds of women and men. I don't know exactly what happened, but Jacob told me that his body was found in a ditch in Israel. He was totally emaciated, almost skeletal-like. I don't know what the hell he was doing in Israel. He's from a small town in Midwest United States, US. Like literally the dead center of the US. It's very bizarre though. Why Israel? What was he doing there? How exactly did he die? Those are the questions that, though I definitely have a theory to answer them, I still do not know the exact facts. Jack doesn't either, but he reassured me it was a damn good thing I didn't take that deal. Now, I am gonna comment here, for I too have a soul pact. Hello! Probably why this got so stuck in my brain that I ended up writing 2 books in... 2 books? 1 book in 2 weeks, like I'm possessed or something. It was literally that. I was writing for like 9 hours a day, and it was the most fun thing I've done in a very long time. And that kind of sounds sad, but honestly, like, I have video games and books, and suddenly you have this urge to write, and it overrides everything else, and it's the weirdest thing ever. Anyway, if you haven't experienced that, I can't actually tell you how that feels, but it's the urge to create, and you absolutely must follow it and must create now. So, hey, now that I've created it, my work has a life of its own, and it can fuck off and do its own thing instead of sit in my brain taking up space, so I'm happy that I actually did do that. Yay! Anyway, I kind of know what they're talking about that transformation. I feel like when people hear the word transformation, they expect you to, like, grow horns or a tail or something. Your personality traits can be easily influenced with an outside energy. And taking on a lot of energy that changes you from inside out is physically painful. The fact that that guy overwent something that would normally take practitioners like years to achieve organically over 2 weeks, it would have been an incredible shock to their system. It would have been an incredible shock to themselves as a person, to a point where it must have been a very dissociating moment of who even am I? And depending on what he asked for, I can see why it turned out that badly. If he asked to live a high life, he would have gotten the kind of traits that are good for that kind of high life. Lust, incredible charisma, deals with shady people, the courage to go through deals with shady people, questionable morals. They got reshaped into a person that would be perfect to live that high life. And when that kind of transformation of character happens in the span of 2 weeks, and you get involved with drugs, and you get involved with riches, and you get involved with of course you're gonna end up dead in a ditch in a couple of months while being significantly emaciated. And it doesn't really spread through contact, but I can see why a person that went through such an extreme change in such a short amount of time would want their friends to stay away, because they wouldn't be entirely sure of themselves and who they are now. I've been through quite a few personality changes, but I've been doing it as a slow process through years. And every single time when I would work on an aspect of myself, you kind of bring it to that brink of where you almost have a personality crisis. That thing that just screams inside you, who am I? Is this even me anymore? And then you pull it back. Like, you stop doing any kind of work and you get used to your new line of being self, and then you do more work depending where you're building. When you unload it on a person this instantly, and this is a very legitimate consequence of people that want for something that doesn't actually fit with their personality. So these kind of wants need to be thought out very, very carefully. Another message came from a practitioner that petitions spirits for short-term changes rather than forever working. Pacts and selling your soul are two very different things. In my experience, pact worked out well for me, but it hasn't been easy. Can't fear the change that takes place to achieve your desire. Can't view things in black and white, good or bad. Selling your soul, I know a couple of people who have done it. They're both completely insane now, living horrid lives. If either of them were on social media, they wouldn't easily give up the info, and are both compulsive liars with constant paranoid delusions. Slaves to their vices as well. I was close with both of them, so it had been confessed to me from both of them separately, after years of knowing them, like it was this deep secret revealed. Really sad too, because they were both driven, charismatic, creative individuals before they did that. Little eccentric, but not as insane and heartless as they are today. In my opinion, they sold their soul over for very mundane lives. I would say this is an intentional trick in the occult. When I read the news articles of serial killers saying demons are evil, or the devil have told them to murder or something similar, I often wonder if they sold their soul to a random lower level entity, not even the real deal ones that could actually give you power. And yeah, this is honest concern. If you're into a cult and you're gonna be putting yourself on the line, you can't put yourself on the line to like random trickster Joe out there that's just getting a kick out of torturing you for your lifetime when you don't know what you're doing. This is why I address trickster entities in this book as well, but at the moment this is neither here nor there. What really stood out for me is that he said that you can't be afraid of the change that making a pact brings you, and I do agree. Pact is kind of a smaller change than what giving yourself to another entity in its complete form brings you. For that requires an insane amount of trust to begin with, so you don't do that lightly, and you don't do that with anyone, and you definitely don't do that on your first meeting. But secondly, when you unload all of your life strings onto another being, you're effectively not just saying, shape the situation about me however you want. You say, you shape me however you want, and you shape my future lifetimes however you want. And hey, you can even look into my past and write yourself in to be a familiar presence if you like, for time is not really all that linear, so that is something that is completely possible to do. You have to make these kind of decisions very, very carefully and know who you are making them with, as otherwise it can end really, really, really wrong. And I do agree with that person that those people that go, oh, the devil told me to do it, they could have been nuts, or they could have just contacted some random Bob that was just hanging out in the spirit world's corner that decided to roleplay the Leviathan for a bit of a laugh. There were many short similar messages that did not give up any details in this tone, for example this one. When you need to learn a lesson, it will be brutal if you do not learn the easy way. I lost a lot of family, I almost lost my own life. I lost what would have been my future for one I am heading for now. Am I worse off? I don't know, but I changed my future. My advice to any practicing magician: know what you're dealing with. The kind of responses that people sent me in, a lot of them were literally like 3-sentence super ominous things that didn't disclose anything. Effectively, it sums up to, I nearly sacrificed it all, and I made a lot of changes. Know your enemy. Or your friend. Know things. And it is good advice. But it's also neither here nor there. I wanted people to tell me of specific encounters, and afterwards I finished the book, I realized that the person that designed the cover could have been in it. And their story is very, very unique and very interesting. So I am a bit pissed with myself for not interviewing them for this, for I did not realize that they did not have a connection before. I literally screamed at the sky that I would sell my soul. And now I'm working towards a music career with an entity by my side. You're not alone. I probed that person further, and it seems that he's not exactly sure who he contacted. Some have even guessed that he is in contact with a Triton, which is a male version of a siren spirit rather than a goetic demon. It can really turn out really, really weirdly, and some people do have good results from just yelling, "I will give myself to anyone that brings X into my life, into the sky." But I highly advise against it. Like, that is not a smart thing to do, and that's like how 95% time you're gonna have a bad time or you're gonna have a no time at all, because nobody necessarily has to answer. You're yelling into the sky. Nobody absolutely necessarily needs to be there to listen. I don't know exactly what I did, but I got the result I wanted. But now I fear I may have tied myself to something. Someone was threatening me and my family. They killed animals for sport using dogs, so I had confronted them about it. So I called on a certain entity to help me kill them in exchange for eternal service / my soul. I also put forth all the hateful and malicious energy I could muster into making this person not only die, but die in the most horrific way possible. A slow and painful death, worse than a woman being raped, is what I said out loud. I gathered enough malicious energy to almost go crazy and then sent it towards said person, along with the plead for the said entity's help. Said person went missing a day later. No one has ever found them. Don't know exactly what happened, but I think they probably died. They were an awful person who hurt animals for sport and threatened to sexually assault me, so don't feel sorry in the slightest. I was 13 at the time I did this. I recognize now that I probably shouldn't have been so easily offering myself to a being, and in fact I still have no idea how to repay said entity for their help. Should they ever reach out, I fully do intend to repay it though. Yeah, this is one of the reasons why I don't suggest that children read my book. People end up making very permanent life choices at the ages when they can't even legally drink or drive. And if you're gonna be making a very, very permanent life choice, you can wait a couple years. I am happy that this person got their safety back, but it feels like the kind of situation that might have been something that they could have dealt with by just using the police. Police kinda cost a lot less soul. And this user failed to sell themselves. Before I got into Satanism, and the driving force behind me getting into Satanism was a girl I fell in love with. She told me about a malevolent spirit that was latched to her. It tormented her for years. At first I prayed to the Christian God to save her. It didn't work. She was losing herself. When I tell the story, I say that I went to a witch right after, which was mostly true. But I always left out that part. I offered myself to the spirit in exchange for her. I told if it would leave her, it can attach to me and have my soul. It wouldn't take the deal, so I went to a witch for help. I learned that day that souls aren't worth much. Nowhere near what people think they're worth. That's a yes and a no sort of thing. On one hand, there's enough souls to fill a desert. If there's as much souls as there is grains of sand in the desert, really. But at the same time, depending on your shape and size and color and what you resemble and who you are and what kind of personality traits you have, some of you might be exceptionally wanted. And you won't know that until you encounter that situation where there's just a spirit from the outside that go, you know what? You would make a perfect guard, or you would make a perfect spirit animal, or you would make a perfect companion, or you would make a perfect part of me. You literally have no idea until you set out like on some sort of spiritual journey, and at that point, you might think, oh, I'm just a grain in the desert, and then you realize that that particular grain is a diamond to somebody without ever expecting that to be the case. So it's both true and false. Now, this is a long and beautiful one, and it's about a person that has established a soul pact after years of working with an entity, which is how you should do it if you're ever gonna do it. I traded, or swore my soul, to my patron after an initiation and spending 2 years with them. I say traded loosely, but the deal was that I would be loyal and dedicated for the extent of my life, in exchange to merge my energy or to serve, follow, meld with them in whatever afterlife I have ahead of me. I very much view my soul as an energy, so that's why I would consider it given like a currency as you described. It's going well. It helped my practice immensely. I feel like the choice was ultimately good because it's really taken away my fear of what comes next. I think a lot of people are afraid of the unknown. This way I know there will be a trustworthy guide to help me when the time comes. A very theistic way of thinking about death, but it works for me. My everyday experience is a lot more easy to move through now. I feel more energetic, happier, and hungrier for life, etc. I was honestly one of the best decisions I've ever made. The only bad side that I've come across is that I worry about my husband. I feel a bit selfish about it. I don't want to go to any sort of heaven with Yahweh. Not dissing it, but I don't think that that's right for me. However, I'm very attached to my partner, and not being able to contact or feel his energy when we die makes me really sad. My patron comforts me on this, which I'm grateful for. But it's a downside to me because it's not fair to pull my partner into whatever I've gotten myself into. They're agnostic and mostly skeptical about any sort of afterlife. Not that I own my partner and would wish any change for his future after death. I don't see him wanting to follow my path. It's just a downer. Very sad to me. And there you go. I do know that experience as well. When you take on a different religious path to somebody else, logic dictates that your paths will split, but for the most part, we come into this world alone and we leave alone. This people that surround you are really very, very temporary, barring any people that make like permanent deals with each other and continue following one another, and that's a dynamic that happens too. Really, the spiritual is not a one-size-fits-all. There's like a million sizes and a million different socks that people can wear with this thing. And it really shows. And every single journey is kind of beautiful. And I know that the subject is fairly morbid, but I wrote a book about it. And it honestly didn't feel like a morbid book for me to write because I'm kind of familiar with the subject. So I'm like, this is kind of my thing. It's okay, I can cover this. This is very much a my thing. There's another subject that's very much a my thing, but I'm just staying away from covering it at the moment. To be fair, there's a lot of subjects that are kind of my thing, but a lot of them are more technical, while this is a bit more, personal, and was very much fun to produce. With that person, I know that some people will be freaked out by the idea of merging into another being or having their energy be absorbed, but trust me, people that are on that particular path don't see it as a freaky occurrence. It would be like being integrated into one superbrain. Like, you're sharing your thoughts with countless others that make up that entity while they're also sharing your thoughts with you like a never breaking circuit. So it's not that you necessarily stop existing, it's that you become a part of something bigger. And even that can sound really friggin' terrifying, but it's not to whoever is meant to go that way. That's the beauty of spirituality. If you're pulled to a certain direction and you're meant to go that way, others might find it super freaky, and you simply won't. You won't see absolutely anything unnatural or not normal with it at all. I hope that maybe this has been a bit interesting for you. If you want to know a complete guide on how to sell yourself to an entity that's pretty morbid, please don't share it with anyone under the age of 18. That would be a very morbid thing to share around. But if you want to read it yourself, go ahead and do it. It's in the description down below. It's like a 70-pager. And if you want to buy it off Amazon with this really, really beautiful cover, I kind of hope that you would. I need to sell about 20 copies before I can buy the cover back. Otherwise, it's money from my pocket, which is, oh well. I had a lot of fun with it. It's out there now. It's living a life of its own. I'm happy about it. The only sad bit is that obviously I can't share this with my own family because they would think that I'm a nut job, which I'm not gonna say it, I'm not. But I am kind of happy with what I'm doing with myself and with my life, so you know what? This isn't exactly harming anybody. And somebody might say, oh, this is super harmful. Actually, I've got like banned off of Reddit for this. One Reddit. There were quite a few Christians there because they thought that I'm bringing people to the devil. And you know what? I'm gonna say, do not judge do not judge a book by its cover. Actually, judge this one by its cover because it's really friggin' beautiful. Do not judge before reading it. Because I do put, like you saw from the testimonials, I put both sides there. I put the good, the bad, the ugly, and I give people as much protection as they would like to, and I give people as many alternative ideas on what to do as possible, instead of just like taking that one final committing step to like a specific entity. So there's a lot of things in there that are not just selling your soul, but a lot of things of, are you sure that this is precisely what you want to do and not instead this or that? So yeah, that's that. Thank you for watching. If you would like to check out the full book, please check out the description down below. Now, please excuse me. I've been having a migraine this week, which is why I'm super inactive and I'm super pissed about it. So I'm just gonna go back to having my migraine and probably watching a lot of Netflix and maybe taking another shower because those are always cool. And I hope I'm gonna see you next time. Toodaloo.